Welcome to the Between the Pages podcast. Today we're going to be talking a little more on the previous choices too, and going into how to double your money and so on.
Well, yeah, I'm Jimmy. This is Sarah. This is our podcast, Between the Pages. We appreciate all of y'all who watch us and support us. Just on a kind of a nice note, we went over 10,000 subscribers, and
if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. Go make a cake.
We got the apple cake recipe. The Elenator bakes a cake and all that. So it's fun. It's worth watching. But we had a pretty good response to the Choices 2 series of videos, podcast. I guess the thing is and so it got me to kind of pondering, and so I know that at the time we did that podcast, silver was trading at $52, closed at $57.50 or something like that. So that's 5% increase just in 4 weeks since we did the podcast. So that's, if you'd had the foresight to go out and purchase 1 ounce of silver, you would have made a 10% profit thereabouts, so just using round numbers. But, I know money's tight. And, one of the things that came to light during this Choices 2 creation and whatnot, we were in the midst of a government shutdown. Okay, and so that affected a lot of people in a not so positive way. And now, thankfully, that's been resolved, and we're going back to work. But it takes time to get things back up to speed, and people got to get their pay and pay their bills.
And if you didn't have emergency fund, you might be starting off upside down, basically.
Exactly, and so that got us to thinking about, everybody that's listening to this, you should have an emergency fund established for unexpected events. Now, the rumors of this shutdown were, being told it's going to happen, and then finally it happened. Well, it just as likely might not have happened, But there are other events that there's no pre-announcement. Yeah. There's no this is going to happen, thing. There's lots of prophecy. A lot of that prophecy's been fulfilled. There's a lot more to go. But these events, the occurrence of those is not like, that's going to happen on, December 13th or whatever, just picking a day. So what can you do? Well, Yeshua, Jesus, he says, be prepared. And so, in a sense, Jesus, he's warning believers that, okay, these events are going to happen. There's going to be pestilences and famines and wars and different things. And granted, we've had all of those, and we continue to have all of those. But in the end time scenario, they've become more frequent and more intense. And so, you as a believer, and spiritual leader of your family, and that's male and female in a sense, because when we did Rosie, what was Rosie doing? She had she was making fabric, and I guess Sarah's taken up quilting lately, and it's a lot of fun, isn't it? Working with fabric and sewing and learning all the different techniques of how to sew and whatnot. But there's a business associated with that, and that's what Rosie was doing. She had her own fabric store where she was selling fabric, and she was a business owner. She owned a business. She was out there. She bought a plot of land. Yeah. She planted a vineyard. And so she was quite the woman. Okay, and so these are things that in a situation and whatnot, you're going to want to be able to do things for yourself. Okay, so you should learn those types of hobbies, if that's what you want to call them now, because you never know when they're going to, actually turn into something. And one of the ways that you can create wealth is Well, like what we did in the spring, we planted some peaches. We planted peach trees. I think we planted a couple plum trees too. They're growing. But those trees bear fruit. Well, that's like wealth. Okay, that's comes from the ground. The tree takes up the nutrient from the soil and the water and whatnot, and it produces, excuse me, a fruit. And you can gather that fruit. You can harvest that fruit when it's ripe, and you can eat it and enjoy it at the time, or you can preserve it. And so, one of the methods that most people use to preserve is freezing, which is a good method. You can also dehydrate, make apple chips and things that we make those. Those are good. Granny Smith apple chips and they last for a long time. Or you can freeze dry, or you can, or I'm sure there's other methods, but those are things that you got to have the right equipment for, and you got to have some knowledge about how to do.
Yeah.
And we do all of those here on the farm. We do all of those. But okay, so not to get too far off track though, there are other ways of generating wealth, and during the time that you're fortunate enough to be healthy, to work and earn a living and whatnot, you should be setting aside some amount of cash, if you will, paper money, which I have an example of right here, $10 bill, American money. It's cloth and paper. There's a recipe for it somewhere. I don't know what it is, but it's what they call fiat money. It doesn't really. It only has the value that people assign to it or ascribe to it. If someone perceives it to be of value, then it is. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper. Okay, and then on top of that, because it does have a value, people. Believe it or not, there are people out there who try to attempt to copy it. And they don't have the recipe. They don't know what it's, how to print it as well or whatever. And so they've added all these features. And so you can take your fiat money, you can hold it up to the light, and it'll have watermarks in it, and it'll have a little strip. And so this is one of the things that tellers and, cashiers and people who accept fiat money, this is how they would, determine whether or not it's genuine. Because, if someone passes you a counterfeit, and you don't know it, then okay, well, what do you do? At the end of the day, you're counting your register, and this 10 stands out from all the others, is looking a little odd. And next thing you know, somebody's gotten some service, either a haircut or a meal, or they bought product like gasoline or something they traded this for, and basically it didn't cost. They didn't have to go out and earn the money or anything. It didn't, and then they got those services or products basically for free, other than the fact they had to spend some time counterfeiting the $10 bill. So there's that aspect of it, but it's you have to be watching what you do. If you buy gold or you buy silver or something like that, well, I don't know if you know this or not, but it is possible to counterfeit gold, and it's not that the gold is not real. It just doesn't have the right content. Like it may be saying it's like 0.99%, when in reality it's half.
Yeah.
So it's a counterfeit. It still has some gold content to it, but it's not gold. And then I'm sure there's other people out there who just don't go with any gold at all. And so, but how would you recognize a counterfeit? You have to learn to recognize a counterfeit. And so, in the instance of the $10 bill, like I say, they've got built-in features. Well, it could be that you're being, misled in other aspects of your life with counterfeit gospel or a counterfeit religion or something of that nature. And so you have the standard that you can match it back to. This is like, well, what did Jesus say? There was a thing not too long ago. It's like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Right? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus say? That kind of thing. And so there's that aspect of it. And so you have to figure that out for yourself. But to get to the point, because I know Sarah, she's enduring over here. when I was growing up, there were all kinds of get-rich-quick schemes. There were all kinds of different things you could do to get rich. And, basically it came down to, well, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And so if somebody's presenting you with some kind of thing that's, probably too good to be true, then it probably is. And who knows? I got a magic trick I'm going to show you. And, you may go, well, that's just too good to be true. But during the course of the choices two, we put up the chart about what it takes to make pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters and things of that nature, and the cost associated with those. Now, the cost to make them is oftentimes greater because you got labor and equipment and that kind of thing, and got fixed costs, facilities, buildings, utilities, whatnot, than the actual content of the money that's being created. But I'm going to show you real quick. You got this $10 bill that I was using earlier, and the only way growing up that we were able to double our money was to do this. Fold it in half, double it like that, and then put it in your pocket. And that is basically the only way you could really double your money. Okay, I mean, it was kind of a joke we would tell people, I can show you how to double your money and that kind of stuff. Well, today I'm going to share another way. You could take this $10 bill here that I just folded in half and stuck in my pocket, and you can go down to the bank and you could present this to the teller. And you can walk up to the window or go through the drive-thru or do whatever you need to do. And you go, I'd like $10 in nickels.
Oh, yeah, you can't go through the drive-thru.
Okay, you can't go through the drive-thru.
Not if you're getting a bunch of coins. They don't like that.
So you could go to the drive-thru and you can say, give me 5 rolls of nickels. There's $2 to a roll. It's if you get 5 of them, that's $10. So that's $10 in nickels, and you'll give them your $10 bill, and they'll give you $10 in nickels. And you go, well, Jimmy, what's that got to do with anything? Well, I'm going to show you. Okay, so the thing is you take the nickels, and it's not so much the nickels, it's the content of the nickels. The material that it takes to make these nickels cost somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 cents. Okay, so the face value of the nickel is 5 cents, but the worth of the nickel is 10 cents. And so by going down and getting, $10 in nickels, you can go, and that turns that into a 20. Ta-da! Now, I mean, that's kind of a corny magic trick and everything, but the content of nickels is twice what its face value is. And so this is a poor man's way, if you will. It's against the law, I think, to melt down nickels for the content of them and that kind of thing. However, if you're in a bartering situation, which is similar to what we were just talking about, being able to make your own quilts, make your own foods, grow your own foods. Well, you can trade those things for other. You can take a quilt and trade it for 2 or 3 bushels of corn, or you could take some kind of canned food or something and trade it for a haircut, whatever. Bartering, and then bartering is okay kind of thing to do. There's IRS regulations and things of that nature. But bartering's okay in small. I mean, we do it all the time, really, if you think about it. I mean, my neighbor comes over and, he helps me work on my equipment, and he doesn't really charge me anything. And then I smoke out and I take him a turkey. So it's kind of like we're, changing, one thing for another. But that's one thing you can do. And, that's not that expensive. Like, going out and buying an ounce of silvers, well, it's $55 now, or $57. I think that's $57.45. Was that what it was? Close. And, so, I mean, but you could take, I'm not saying that this, if you had $50 that you're going to spend, or invest, if you will, you could get $50 worth of nickels, and that would be worth $100 in content. So, something you can do, little things you can do, and that's all you have to really do is just look around for, if okay, and then you think about, well, if I was in a shipwreck or something, and I was on a desert island, and I survived, baby survived, and a case of baby food survived. Well, what do? You eat the baby food, because if you just give the baby food to the baby, you'll eventually run out and you both will starve. So you eat the baby food so that you can go out and forage and find other food or grow other food to help both of you survive. Okay? And so then the question then becomes, well, let's say, take the same scenario. You were in a shipwreck or something and you washed up on the shore, and, which would you rather have? You got to have a balance in life. You can't just go all bore, if you will, on, I'm going to go invest in commodities. Well, what type of commodities? Would you rather have a bucket of wheat? I mean, there's not another boat in sight, and nobody's coming for you, at least anytime soon, or a bucket of gold. You're in a survival situation. You want a bucket of wheat available. And so you gotta approach things rationally and whatnot in a situation where there's stress in the economic system. Might be good to have a few rolls of nickels around. I don't know, for years I've been going down. I don't know, 10 or 15 years. It's been a long time, hasn't it? About every other month or so, I go to the bank and get $10 worth of nickels. $10 is not, it's in the noise, most of the time. I mean, compared to some of the other bills I have to pay. So, I mean, I got $10. I just don't go get a sack of, burgers or whatever, right, or anything like that. I just go buy nickels instead. So, anyway, we just wanted to share that with you. What's the best part? Counterfeit what?
Whatever.
Yeah, well, you have to go match it against the standard.
You study the standard. You study the real thing.
Right.
And that was the thing with God.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
You don't go look at what the fake gods are doing. You look and study.
Yeah, well, I thought I kind
real
of said
God.
that. I thought I said, if you're in a fake organization or a religious system or whatever, you got to match it back to the Bible. You got to match it back to what did Jesus say. If your group or organization's telling you something, and Jesus was telling people, get prepared. He, there's a term out there they call them preppers or whatever, and Jesus was saying, be prepared. Don't be deceived. And basically, if you're looking at, if you're in a counterfeit, well, obviously you were deceived, right?
Yeah.
You accepted it. Somebody was able to convince you, and sometimes it's just because you don't take the time to take a look. You're in a hurry, and you just accept that counterfeit, and you move on, and then you realize later, this is a counterfeit. It doesn't have the same quality or the same features as the real article, the genuine article. So, and a lot of times that really only matters, and that's one of the things we're working on now is choices 3. And physical aspects of James, the book of James, chapter 5, and with Jemima and Joe, we worked through basically the first part, the anger part, and the mental health issues associated with different aspects of. And so the next book, I Am Mem, deals with physical. Well, if you're praying the prayer of faith, and you didn't get results, well, does that mean your faith wasn't good? No, that doesn't mean that at all. Faith is good. It just means that wasn't going to be the answer. You weren't going to get whatever. That doesn't mean there was lack of faith or anything of that nature. So a lot of people misinterpret that, and a lot of places teach that. So if you're in that type of a place or organization, then maybe you might want to, you got to match it against the standard. That's a good point. We do it all the time. And I have standards. This is what the composition of this material is. Yeah, you have to have analysis done to determine is it the correct composition or whatever. And so if it doesn't match the standard, then it's not the same. For whatever reason, it may have actually been intentional. Somebody counterfeited it, or it just may be that somebody didn't follow the process and do it the right way.
That's all we got for you today. Join us next time.
I think Sarah had enough of that, y'all. And so, thank you for supporting us, and thank you for helping us, with our, podcast and whatnot, and the positive responses that we get and whatnot. As we think of others of these type examples, we'll share them with you. But, if it's not something, that you're interested in, well, just maybe we'll cover something that is of interest to you.
So, like, subscribe, and follow, and join us next time on the Between the Pages podcast.
Thank you very much.